Alrighty, so now I want to have this text rotate, and I want to just pop into place so that it's actually on its side going up, and then have a shape drop, and words is tie carrier. So the first thing I want to do is move these guys, but because they're already animated and they have their own keys and they're independent, trying to get them to stay locked with each other and positioned properly is it could be a lot more trouble than what it's worth without using a nice little tool of grouping them together or parenting them to something else that I can rotate. And in essence, keeping them as that while they're parented to something else, keeping them in a virtual group that I can animate, scale, rotate all of them with all of their individual animations intact without it throwing everything off. So what I need to do is create, go up to here, layer, new, null object. So this is an invisible object. And all I'm really using it for is because I can attach things to it. And then when I do, I can scale this thing, I can rotate it, I can do all sorts of things, and everything parented to it will follow along. Now first, this is it here. You'll see it right in the timeline. And what I want to do is I want to parent these guys to this, so to this null. So if we look in our layers, we could see there's nail 1. And I could just rename that if I wanted to. Rename, and I'll call it null group 1. Okay. I accidentally double click so it opened it up in here. Just go back to composition so you can see everything. And what I want to do is I want to parent name, my, and hello to this group. And the way I do that is I go all the way to the right where you see these little squiggly lines that are kind of this coiled up look. I click and I drag that to whatever I want it parented to, and then you'll see it showing up what the parent is. I'll do it to my, click that little squiggly line, drag it to null group 1 when I renamed, and then hello. So now all of them are connected to that null group, so which means if I move that null group around, I scale it, I do whatever I want, it's going to affect everything parented to it. So it's a really nice way of being able to animate a group of things. Imagine these are all animated at the same time and I have this doing spins and stuff while they're coming in, or lots of cool stuff I could do. Okay. But for right now, I just want to roll onto its side. So I'm gonna go up here, and what you'll see is the anchor point tool. I'm gonna click on this. And this little guy right here is the anchor point. So if I move it someplace, let's say right about here, right at the beginning of it, and maybe right about there, this is going to be my pivot point that everything will rotate on. Okay. So in other words, if I go here, hello, my name is Typo. So right about here is where it should roll over. And this one is interesting because I have to set a key telling it it's going to keep still to what point and when is it going to move and when's it going to get there. So if I pan back, hello, my name right about there is where is. I'll zoom in just a little bit. So is right about there. So okay, so what I'm going to do to that null group right now, you could shrink this down, it doesn't really matter. It's only gonna be visible in doing a few things that we tell it to. So I'm gonna say, let us see. Yeah, it's rotation. So R, of course, just making sure. So I hit R with this null layer selected so I can pull up the rotation. And right here is where I want it to stay where it's at until later. So this one I'm actually going to go, okay, you're here. Hello, my name is... And then over here is where it rotates. So I'm going to grab the rotate tool, or it's W. You can see the little shortcut letters after these tools here. So W. I click on that null, and I'm just going to rotate it. Bam. And there we go. And it's like negative 90.8 degrees, so it's just a smidgen off. There we go. Hit, I was holding down Shift to kind of snap it. So if we look at it right now, this is what we have. Hello, my name's Typo. And then I'd go into that. So we created the null. Move the pivot point because that's where we want to rotate. And with this null, I could have it, now I can animate that whole group going one way or the other. I could scale it. I could do all sorts of things with it. Okay. So that's how to make a null group that you parent things to inside of the layers. And then when you animate the null group, you just select it in here, and then you can rotate it, move it, scale it, do all sorts of things. And everything connected to it is going to piggyback and go along with it.